Every morning for 3 years, a kind waitress served an elderly man his coffee and listened to his stories. She never knew who he really was or why he always sat alone in the corner booth. Then one day, lawyers in expensive suits walked in with 4 bodyguards, and her life changed forever. The morning sun filtered through the windows of Rosie's Diner, a small neighborhood restaurant that had been serving the same community for 40 years, its worn booths and faded countertops holding decades of memories and conversations. Sarah Martinez wiped down tables before the breakfast rush, her routine as familiar as breathing, after 8 years of working the morning shift, supporting her 2 kids while their father's child support checks arrived sporadically, if at all. She was 34 years old, tired in ways that went beyond physical exhaustion, but she smiled genuinely at every customer because kindness cost nothing and sometimes made the difference in someone's difficult day. Mr. Henry walked through the door at exactly 7:15, the same time he'd arrived every morning for the past 3 years, his slow, careful steps and simple clothing making him look like any other retired man living on a modest pension. He always sat in the same corner booth, always ordered the same breakfast, 2 eggs over easy, wheat toast, black coffee, and always left a $5 tip on a $12 meal. Sarah had grown fond of him over the years, his quiet dignity and kind eyes reminding her of her grandfather, who'd passed when she was young. Mr. Henry never complained, never demanded, just sat peacefully reading his newspaper and occasionally sharing stories about his late wife Margaret, who he still spoke about with tender love. Despite her passing 15 years, how their relationship had deepened slowly over 3 years of morning conversations. Sarah sharing stories about her kids, 10-year-old Emma, who loved drawing, and 8-year-old Marcus, who couldn't sit still, while Mr. Henry listened with genuine interest, occasionally offering gentle advice that came from decades of living. He asked about Emma's school art show, remembered when Marcus broke his arm skateboarding, celebrated when Sarah's son made the soccer team. When Sarah's car broke down and she'd worried aloud about the repair cost, Mr. Henry had listened sympathetically, but never offered money, respecting her pride and independence. He treated her like family, like someone whose life mattered beyond her ability to refill his coffee cup. Sarah never questioned why Mr. Henry always ate alone, why he never mentioned children or other family, why his clothes were simple and worn, despite his educated speech and obvious intelligence. She assumed he was a widower living on social security, perhaps lonely, finding companionship in the routine of the diner and her friendly attention. She sometimes brought him extra toast without charging, made sure his coffee was always hot, and on his birthday, which she'd learned during casual conversation, she'd brought a small cupcake with a candle, making him tear up with gratitude that someone had remembered. These small kindnesses were just Sarah being Sarah, treating people with the dignity she'd want for herself, never imagining they meant anything beyond simple human decency. Then came the morning that changed everything. Sarah was refilling Mr. Henry's coffee when the diner door opened and 4 men in black suits entered, their presence immediately changing the atmosphere, their professional bearing and expensive clothes out of place in the humble diner. Behind them walked 2 more men in even more expensive suits carrying leather briefcases, their authoritative demeanor suggesting lawyers or executives, scanning the room until their eyes landed on Mr. Henry in his corner booth. Sarah felt suddenly protective, stepping slightly between the strangers and her elderly friend, confused about who these people were and why they were approaching with such serious expressions. The lead lawyer spoke with formal courtesy that felt rehearsed. "Mr. Henry Thornton? We've been looking for you for 3 days, sir. Your family has been extremely worried. You weren't at your residence or answering your phone." Sarah stared at Mr. Henry in confusion as he sighed deeply, looking suddenly tired. "I told them I needed space. I wasn't missing. I was having breakfast with my friend Sarah, same as always." The lawyer glanced at Sarah with barely concealed surprise, as if shocked that Henry Thornton would call a diner waitress his friend. "Sir, there are urgent matters requiring your attention. The board meeting was postponed. The Singapore investors are waiting. And your grandson has been calling constantly." Sarah's confusion deepened as the conversation continued, words like board meeting and investors making no sense in context of the modest man who'd been ordering $12 breakfasts for 3 years. Mr. Henry looked at Sarah with apology in his eyes. I suppose I owe you an explanation. My full name is Henry Thornton. I'm the founder of Thornton Industries. These gentlemen work for me, though I wish they'd respect my morning routine. Sarah literally felt her understanding of reality shift. Thornton Industries was one of the largest manufacturing companies in the country. She'd seen their trucks on highways, their products in stores. Henry Thornton was worth billions, according to business news she'd occasionally seen. The lawyer, sensing Sarah's shock, spoke with professional distance. Mr. Thornton owns 17 manufacturing facilities, employs over 40,000 people globally, and serves on multiple corporate boards. He's been managing his company since 1972. Sarah couldn't process this information. While looking at the man who'd shared stories about his wife's rose garden and asked about her son's soccer games. "You're a billionaire? Why were you eating breakfast here alone every morning?" Mr. Henry's response was simple and heartbreaking. "Because this is the only place where someone treats me like I'm still just Henry, where someone remembers my coffee order and asks about my day because they care about me, not my company or my money. Margaret died 15 years ago. My children only call about business. My grandchildren know me as the signature on trust fund checks. You're the only person who's treated me like I matter beyond my bank account." Sarah felt tears welling up, understanding the loneliness behind his morning routine, the hunger for genuine human connection that money couldn't buy. She reached across the table and squeezed his hand. "You're still just Mr. Henry to me. You're my friend. I don't care about your company. I care that you like your eggs over easy, and you always ask about Emma's drawings." The bodyguards shifted uncomfortably, unused to seeing Henry Thornton, the feared corporate legend, crying in a diner booth while holding a waitress's hand. The lawyers exchanged glances, unsure how to proceed when their billionaire client was having an emotional moment with someone they'd probably dismissed as insignificant. Mr. Henry composed himself and addressed the lawyers with authority. Sarah had never heard in his voice. "Reschedule the board meeting. Tell Singapore I'll video conference tomorrow. And regarding the urgent matter you mentioned, I'm making some changes to my will and estate planning." He turned to Sarah with determination. "You've given me 3 years of kindness, treated me with dignity when you didn't know I had money to my name, remembered my birthday, shared your family's stories, made me feel human again. That's worth more than you know." Sarah started to protest. "Mr. Henry, you don't owe me anything. I was just being friendly. That's what decent people do." But Mr. Henry was resolute, pulling papers from the briefcase the lawyers reluctantly provided. "Sarah Martinez, I'm establishing a trust fund for your children's education, full scholarships through university, including graduate school if they choose. I'm also transferring ownership of this diner building to you, free and clear, so you'll never worry about rent increases or closure. Additionally, I'm creating a foundation in my late wife Margaret's name, dedicated to supporting single mothers, and I'd like you to serve on the board with a salary of $150,000 annually. You'll help decide how to help women like yourself, using your experience and compassion to make real differences in people's lives." Sarah couldn't speak, couldn't process what was happening, her mind struggling to comprehend that her morning routine of simple kindness had somehow led to this moment of impossible generosity. "Mr. Henry, this is too much. I can't accept this. I didn't help you expecting anything. I helped you because you're my friend." Mr. Henry smiled, the same gentle smile she'd seen across coffee cups for 3 years. "I know you didn't expect anything. That's exactly why you deserve everything. You saw a lonely old man and treated him with dignity. You included me in your life, shared your joys and struggles, made me feel valued as a person. In a life where everyone wants something from me, you wanted nothing except to make sure my coffee was hot and my morning was pleasant. That's the rarest gift anyone's ever given me." The lawyers handled paperwork while Sarah called her sister to watch her kids, unable to fully explain what was happening. Mr. Henry insisted on staying for his usual breakfast, refusing to leave until Sarah served him his 2 eggs over easy, wheat toast and black coffee, maintaining their routine despite the bodyguards making the small diner feel crowded. He told her about his wife Margaret, how she'd always said the measure of a person's character was how they treated people who could do nothing for them, how Sarah had embodied that principle perfectly, treating a man she thought was a modest retiree with the same kindness she'd show a wealthy customer. Before he left that morning, Mr. Henry hugged Sarah, something he'd never done before, and whispered, "Margaret would have loved you. Thank you for reminding me that kindness still exists in the world, that genuine human connection matters more than balance sheets and board meetings. Keep being exactly who you are, it's perfect." He left with his lawyers and bodyguards, but he came back the next morning at 7:15 exactly, ordering his usual breakfast. Because their friendship was real and transcended the revelation of his wealth, because Sarah's diner had become his sanctuary, and because sometimes the most valuable thing a billionaire can find isn't another company to acquire, but a person who sees them as human. First, Sarah continued working at the diner even after becoming financially secure, because the job had never been just about money, but about connection and purpose. She eventually bought the entire building as Mr. Henry had arranged, renovating it while keeping its character, creating a space that honored working families and treated every customer with dignity, regardless of their bank account. The Margaret Thornton Foundation became one of the most effective charities helping single mothers, with Sarah's practical experience and compassion guiding its decisions, changing thousands of lives. And every morning at 7:15, Mr. Henry walked through the door, sat in his corner booth, and ordered 2 eggs over easy, wheat toast and black coffee, served by the woman who taught him that the greatest wealth isn't measured in dollars, but in moments of genuine kindness that remind us we're all human. We all matter, and sometimes the smallest gestures of compassion create ripples that change everything.